Dolphins fans, joint practice number 2 with the Houston Texans in the books today, leading up to Thursday's preseason game against the Houston Texans, obviously in Houston. The big news of the day, the big scare of the day, obviously being Terron Armstead. We're going to get into all of that and why any injury to Terron Armstead is obviously going to highlight the day. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about the day just in general. But before we get into today's action, I just want to hear from you, your thoughts on Terron Armstead, your thoughts, what you're looking for, what you're looking to expect from Saturday's preseason game with the Texans. Go ahead, drop all that stuff in the comments. I want to hear where you are with things as well. A little bit less play-by-play with these joint practices with the Texans. Their media rules aren't allowing all like the play-by-play tweets to occur. So we have a little bit less of that, but that just means we can spend a little bit more time talking about Terron Armstead. So let's jump right into that, because if you don't know by now, Terron Armstead suffered a leg injury on literally the first snap of 11 on 11. If you're following along right away when things happen, that's not a good way to start your day. I can tell you what, it saddened me quite a bit, but we did get a little bit of encouraging news, I'll say. We'll get to that here in a second, but was unable to put weight on it at the time, was carted off. The good news is he later did post on social media a video of him walking. Granted, he wasn't running anywhere or anything like that, but he was walking on his own. Did see another video as well later of him leaving the facility, was on crutches. So obviously there's something going on there. But the latest is that it doesn't appear to be serious. We're thinking it's not any major tears, none of the season-ending stuff that we dread and that we unfortunately see at points in times throughout the offseason, but is going to undergo further testing to determine the severity. I will post any updates in the comments as they come in, so continue to check back if you're looking for that kind of stuff. But man, if you want to talk about just his importance, any injury is huge, but Terron Armstead is kind of on that short list of guys you can't afford to lose. I mean, we already lost Ramsey. So if you look, you can't lose Tua. You can't lose Terron Armstead. You really can't lose any of the top 3 offensive linemen. Now that we've already lost Ramsey, you don't want to lose Xavier Howard. But if you look at this offensive line, we talk about the 3 positions that are solidified. It's left tackle, center, right guard. Well, if you're going to lose the best one of all of those, I don't want to say goodbye season, but man, you're instantly like, okay, well, we're inserting Kendall Lamb now, or we're inserting Isaiah Wynn now. And just the sheer performance based on that player alone, the caliber of player that you're dropping to. And I like what Kendall Lamb is doing so far in training camp. Don't get me wrong. And Isaiah Wynn has starting experience as well. Don't get me wrong on that. But when you're losing Terron Armstead, we saw it last year. The proof is on the tape from last year. This team has to change how they perform on offense. They have to get the ball out quicker. You automatically are losing depth because you're bringing another guy into that spot. And now think about the on-field, not only just performance, but what he means to the left guard, which is arguably our most challenged position right now. Being able to help identify those stunts and twists and being that guy next to that young left guard, that inexperienced left guard, to really kind of lead the way. And now maybe if that is Kendall Lamb, you're losing a lot of NFL experience and top tier NFL experience by going to that next guy, just based on what he can do to help the left guard alone. So this is not an injury we want to see suffered. I'm encouraged that it doesn't appear to be anything season ending. Like I said, we'll cross your fingers, prayer, whatever you do, go ahead and continue to doing. And like I said, we'll keep our eye out for some updates. But let's talk a little bit about the play-by-play from today's practice and the players in general. We'll talk a little bit more about the quarterbacks as we go on throughout the video here. But it sounds like the plan for the Tua and the first stringers, at least going into today's joint practice, was that they wanted to get the starters at least a couple of series on Saturday against the Texans. Now, if Terron Armstead news and an injury scared changed that, I don't know yet. If I find anything, I'll drop that in the comments as well. But going into today's practice, that was at least the plan, I was told, for Saturday. Like I said, I'll update as I learn more. If you want to talk about a running back, the one that was of note today, Raheem Mostert, was targeted on 5 of Tua's 6 passes in the 2-minute drills. It sounded like it was just kind of a lot of dump offs. He did have 2 drops in that period. However, one was where he was hit immediately after touching the ball. So tough drop right there. Wide receivers, Tyreek, I think he said in the media that he was scheduled and supposed to have the day off, but you know what? Tyreek just kind of does what Tyreek wants to do. Practiced anyways, hit a short crosser from Tua, connected with Skyler on a deep out, another deep outside shot from Tua. So obviously Tyreek was doing his things. Braxton Berrios, another deep reception today. Today's came from Tua. However, keep your eye on the injury bug. He already had the forehead cut, did walk off the field today with a trainer. So we'll monitor that as well. Eric Ezukama caught a touchdown from Mike White, and River Craycraft actually caught the other ball from Tua in that 2-minute drill. Little bit of news from the tight end position in 7-on-7 drills. Julian Hill caught a touchdown from Mike White. Obviously, we didn't really see much from him in the opener of preseason. With that said, he's actually made a little bit of noise here as a pass catcher in training camp. So at least another name to keep an eye on here as we continue through exhibition season. And then Elijah Higgins, who made some noise in that preseason game as well, did catch a touchdown from Skylar Thompson in 7-on-7s. Moving on to the defense, Deshaun Hand had a sack in the Texans. I'm calling it the do-over 2-minute drill. We'll talk about a little bit more about that here in a second. Raekwon Davis was credited with the sack and numerous pressures. I can tell you that Vic Fangio is a big fan of Raekwon Davis and the position he plays and the way he plays it. So I'm really looking forward to watching Raekwon and Vic Fangio's defense this year. One more injury note. Jesus, it's just continuing to pile on. Brandon Peely, the promising undrafted free agent interior defensive lineman, appeared to have suffered a head neck injury. The good news is he did walk off the field under his own power. He is scheduled to undergo an MRI, but man, our depth continuing to be tested at that position. I was told a day or two ago, I don't think this is public knowledge yet, but the Dolphins did make an offer to Akeem Hicks. It's just something he's pending at this point in time. Obviously, he hasn't accepted it, hasn't come to it. Sounds like it's maybe a little bit of a lower offer just to kind of see where he's at. But keep your eye on a guy like Akeem Hicks potentially, especially if Brandon Peely is sidelined for any time. Jalen Phillips, fumble recovery in the Texans 2-minute drill. So this is what I mean by the 2-minute drill do-over, because literally on the first snap of the Texans 2-minute drill, snap comes, hits the wide receiver, ball falls to the ground. Jalen Phillips picks up the fumble. They gave him a redo because I didn't want to end like that. But Jalen Phillips, I'm saying it every day now, continuing to be a menace, once again credited with a multiple sack day. I think that makes what's today, like practice 16 or 17. That's like 20 times now out of 17 times. That's how impressive this guy has been throughout training camp, and especially again today. Emmanuel Ogbah, another guy we're excited to see kind of have a bounce back year, drew a holding penalty in one of the Texans 2-minute drills. And then Duke Riley actually ended the Texans do-over 2-minute drill by stripping the ball away from Dalton Schultz. It sounded like it was either a fumble and he just grabbed it, or an interception. Regardless, Duke Riley with the sealer of the day. Andrew Van Ginkel had a really nice day yesterday. Did allow a touchdown to Mike Boone in red zone 11-on-11. And then David Long was credited with a tackle for loss on a Devin Singletary run. However, noted for a little bit more of an inconsistent performance over the course of the day. We'll finish things up with the secondary. Like I said, not quite as many notes today. Javon Holland did secure an interception. I believe that was in on 11-on-11 action versus CJ Stroud. Cam Smith does remain in the red no contact jersey. We've talked about that the last couple of days. That's probably par for the course. They're going to play it safe with him. And that came to fruition today because he participated in some 11-on-11 drills, but the Dolphins coaching staff took him off the field as the Texans had a run play their way, and one of the wide receivers was obviously blocking him. Said, no, we don't need to test that. Took him off the field. And the last note I got is that Eli Apple was beat basically on like a 15-yard slant from Nico Collins, which there was no safety help. Nico Collins took it in for a 65-yard touchdown. That's the news for the day, obviously highlighted by Terron Armstead. So like I said, continue to check back for updates as they come in. I'll be previewing the Dolphins-Texans game as well. If you got any thoughts on that, like I said, go ahead and drop them in the comments. But until that video, Dolphins fans, pray for Terron Armstead. Cross your fingers for Terron Armstead. Whatever you need to do, let's get that man healthy, and fins up.